This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the צורכם כמו בבת, טרורי קרא לבני מבת בית צורכם כמו בבת, נעים שמכם ולא יושבה Shabbat, שבורנו ביום שבת. Shabbat Shalom. This song is a traditional song sung on Shabbat. Dror Yikra Leveni Bat, declare to all the sons and daughters of the land to celebrate the joy of freedom. The theme of freedom is central to our Shabbat experience, and the theme of freedom is central to our Shabbat in this weekend, in particular in the United States, as tomorrow we celebrate the 4th of July. In fact, the words that are imprinted on the Liberty Bell are very similar to these very same words we sing for Shabbat. For on the Liberty Bell, we read the words, "Proclaim liberty throughout the land to all the inhabitants thereof." This passage from Leviticus, these words from Shabbat, help us to remember the value of freedom in our lives and in our world. As we welcome Shabbat with a more familiar song, Yismechu, we remember the value of freedom, the value of peace, the value of rest. On this Shabbat, We have so much for which to be grateful. Among those things is our freedom. And throughout our service today, we will sing songs that celebrate our freedom and the joy that we experience as American Jews throughout the land. In addition to the joys of Shabbat, we look back on a week of appreciation as well. We celebrate the birthdays of Barbara Lipschultz, Betsy Goldstein, Barry Russ, Walter Rosen, Howard Fireman, Paul Messina, Catherine Gross, Marcia Beretta, Elizabeth Van, Nancy Johnson, Rachel Filko, Dash Jacobs, and Arthur Kramer. And we also celebrate the anniversaries of Ted and Maria Johnson, Richard and Evelyn Lazier, Aaron and Alex Will, Daryl and Karen Rosenthal, Chris and Robin Campbell. We do not take these moments for granted. As we welcome Shabbat, we express our great gratitude for the past week. And as we toast L'chaim to life, this week in particular, we remember the freedom that we enjoy as we recite the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lechad likner, shel Shabbat. Amen.
Praised are you, eternal our God, ruling Spirit of the universe, who sanctifies us with commandments and has commanded us regarding the lighting of our Shabbat candles. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon, inchilanu, zikaron le'maaseh l'reishit, ki hu yom te'ikah, v'nikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziat mitzvayim, ki banu b'chatam, ve'otanu hikdashtam, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshcha, ve'ahava uvratzon, inchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen. L'chaim. The soul that has been implanted within each human being is pure, and our bodies are created in God's image. But there are times when our hearts and our souls feel broken, and when our abilities to connect with each other and sense God in our lives is strained. At such times, the prayers of our family and friends can help bridge that gap. As we sing the Misha Berach prayer, we ask God to bless us with healing of body, mind, and spirit.
most in need of healing, we pray for Shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
O eternal source of peace, grant us comfort in our sorrow, grant us strength in our trials, and grant us courage to serve you in all of our ways. May our words of prayer and the unspoken words of our hearts always strive to reach you on your eternal throne. And may those words and our efforts and our heartfelt meditations always be acceptable in your sight. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Praise the eternal God, to whom all praise is due. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Let us praise the eternal God, to whom all praise is due, now and forever. The universe whispers of a oneness behind all that is, so the love in our hearts calls people everywhere to unite in the pursuit of the ideals that make us human. As we sing of the oneness of God, we rejoice in the wonder of the universe, and we pray for the day when all humanity will be one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Eternal is our God, the Eternal God is one. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Let us praise the Eternal God, who lives in glory forever. In our Torah portion this week, we are presented with two of the perhaps strangest passages in the entire Torah. The first, from Numbers 19, instructs the Israelites in the following way. It says, "Instruct the Israelite people to bring you a red cow without blemish." It's often referred to as the red heifer. "You shall bring this cow to Eleazar the priest, and shall take it outside the camp and slaughter it in his presence. A man who is pure shall gather up the ashes from this cow and deposit these ashes outside of the camp in a pure place, to be kept for waters of lustration for the entire Israelite community." In essence, what is being described here is holy soap. This special formula for cleansing is particularly formulated for the priests, who must be pure whenever contacting the dead. They must find this soap of lustration and cleanse themselves to be completely pure. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could simply wash away our impurities by using the soap made from a red heifer? That would be beautiful. In the second passage, if this passage about holy soap is not odd enough, we have a passage in the next section of the Torah, in Numbers 21, where God instructs Moses to make a giant copper serpent and place this copper serpent on a pole for all the community to see. And what is the purpose of this big copper serpent? Well, it is this: when anyone is bitten by a venomous or poisonous snake, which God had actually put snakes in the community to stir up some fear as a punishment after last week's rebellion, if someone were to be bitten by this snake, according to the story, God says that simply looking at the copper serpent would heal the person who was bitten. So passage number 1 uses holy soap to cleanse us of our impurities, and this second passage has a big copper snake that can heal us from a venomous snake bite. Would that it be so easy? But you know, what's odd about both of these is that they seem to evoke these kinds of images which are certainly not common today in Jewish practice. But the truth is, at the core of what is being described here, even though we don't erect copper snakes anymore and don't make soap out of red heifer ashes, we can't because they don't even exist in the world anymore. But at the core of these rituals is an important lesson. Let's look at each of these rituals a little closer to see what kinds of lessons we can glean. With regards to this copper snake, the 20th century scholar Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch suggests that over time, the Israelites had grown completely complacent and completely take for granted the freedoms that they have been afforded as they were freed from Egypt, as they take their security for granted, as they take their freedoms for granted. God chooses this moment to instill within them, with these snakes and serpents, a moment where they can remind themselves that this is a dangerous land and that faith is very important in leading them through this experience. By introducing them to the attack of these poisonous snakes and then allowing them to find healing and security by simply looking at the serpent, Rabbi Hirsch suggests that God is trying to reawaken within our ancestors a sense of reverence, a sense of appreciation, a sense of faith rooted in an awareness of their surroundings. We, like the Israelites in the desert, are free people. We are blessed to live in a country where our rights are guaranteed. However, the realities of our freedom are often taken for granted. I've often heard of our freedoms being so, it's like a fish being in the water, where a fish doesn't even become aware that water is its survival until it's out of the water. So too it is with us, with our freedoms. We don't appreciate what we have in our free society until those freedoms are no longer ours to practice. Like our ancestors long ago, we can find hope, we can find comfort, we can find reminders of what we have through symbolic imagery. This weekend, this Shabbat, which falls on the 4th of July, is such an opportunity. when we celebrate our freedom through fireworks and the flag and picnics with our families, we allow ourselves to celebrate and appreciate the freedoms we are granted. So too it is with Shabbat. When we observe Shabbat each week, the Jewish people have an opportunity to celebrate and appreciate our God-given gifts and celebrate and appreciate the work of the week. And so too it is with this odd serpent, which reminds the people of Israel long ago of the security and the faith that they have been allotted and the freedoms of the wilderness. They are reminded, look at the snake and be reminded that you are connected to God in a sacred way, that you have been granted freedom in this wilderness by God. You should not take that for granted. Symbols are important to our ancestors, and symbols are important to us today. And this leads us to the holy soap that was spoken of in the first part of our Torah portion. It is because we can recognize things that are holy. It is because we can recognize a difference between what is ordinary and what is extraordinary that sacred holy soap comes into play. For if the priests were unable to practice this ritual, they would not have been able to separate in their day a differentiation between the sacred and the profane. Well, in our day, we have the opportunity to do this as well. Through Shabbat, through celebrations like the 4th of July, through images like our Shabbat candles or the American flag, we can be reminded of two extremely important ideas. The first is that we are a people brought together through values and through beliefs. In America, our peoplehood is embraced and celebrated through this idea of liberty and justice and freedom for all. As a Jewish people, Shabbat serves as a weekly reminder that we are woven together through our faith and through our Torah and through the teachings of our heritage. Symbols are important. Symbols keep us together, and symbols enable us to rally together as people, whether it be in ancient times around a copper snake, or through the rituals of holy soap, or whether it be in our own day through the celebration of Shabbat or the 4th of July. We can all find joy and happiness in coming together to celebrate who we are and what we believe. Shabbat Shalom. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me the endless skyways. I saw below me the golden valleys. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to earthly sands of the diamond desert, while all around me a voice was calling. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May the memory of our righteous always be for a blessing. This week, we remember with love Cillian Lewis, David Bennett, Sylvia Schreiber, Alvin Solomon, Pearl Solomon, Mose Buck, Martin Bellet, Sarah Levy. As we join together in the hallowed words of the Mourner's Kaddish, we remember our loved ones whose legacy has been for a blessing.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imeru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei amaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shmei kedusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran ve'alma v'imeru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, Hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imeru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort all who are bereaved among us. And let us say, Amen.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesties above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. May God grant our people strength. May God bless us and people everywhere with the blessing of freedom, the blessing we celebrate on this July 4th, and the blessing to see with vivid clarity a path to peace. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood